this week's episode of the official podcast of Minor League Baseball. It is time for our first February 2026 edition of the show before the show. Tyler Mon, Ben Hill, Sam Dykstra. Fellas, what's up? How are you?
We're good. We're good, Tyler. Yeah, I mean, this is the official start of February for us on this show.
Yeah.
Pitchers and catchers. Literally right around the corner. I mean, not literally. Maybe there's a pitcher or a catcher somewhere in the office today.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're in a higher potential place for that to actually happen than I would assume anybody else who was tuned into this. Unless they're listening at a spring training facility.
Has worked out of this office before.
Yeah.
The former Yankees and Mets reliever. I haven't seen him in a bit, but there's always the potential he's around. And
Last time I was in the office, he was there. He was just sitting at a desk, and I was like, oh, I remember you from my TV.
I've worked in an MLB draft league game with Dylan. He's a great mind of the games. Obviously, somebody who can study up on it. Good asset to have around, but I don't know. Maybe he'll spook us. He's
if he walks by behind you. Oh yeah, if he towers by behind you, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. But yeah, we are getting closer and closer. We're coming up on pitchers and catchers reporting for the 2026 spring training kickoff. We've had truck days across baseball as teams get set to open spring training here in 2026. And we are thrilled to have you all along with us on this week's episode of the show before the show, as always. And as always, delighted to kick things off talking with Ben Hill in this week's edition of Ben's Biz Banter, presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. Ben, we're getting closer and closer to the start of the minor league baseball season, which means more and more alt identities, more and more promo schedules. Let's kick off. We got a handful of new alternate identities released this week by teams sort of across the minor league spectrum.
That's correct, Tyler. Handful is defined as between 3 and 6, and we are at that number. 4, actually, alternate identities since the last time we all spoke, and I do feel it's my duty, perhaps not a sacred or solemn one, but a duty nonetheless to keep everyone updated on every alternate identity that comes down the pike across my desk, however you want to say it. Let's start, well, alphabetically, as it were. And going back to Altoona, Pennsylvania, they recently did the Continentals and America 250 Revolutionary War themed alternate identity. This time they're still throwing it way back, not all the way to the 18th century, but to the 19th century. And Tyler, as a former Altoona Curve broadcaster, were you aware of the 1893-1894 Altoona Mud Turtles in the Pennsylvania State League, that being part of Altoona baseball history?
You know, I probably was in 2012, but that is certainly a name that has slipped from the recesses of my brain.
Well, allow it to return to the recesses. And that's what the Altoona Curve are going to suit up as for a couple games this year, the Altoona Mud Turtles. This is a throwback identity. The team has not released much supplementary information, and I have not reached out to them yet. But obviously, back in 1893 and 1894, when the Altoona Mud Turtles first played, not sure exactly how they got that name, but that was the pre-logo era. So when the Curve plays the Altoona Mud Turtles, they've created a whole new identity around that. And as you would expect, it's like a turtle over a patch of mud, kind of slide, a turtle in motion, splatting into mud, celebrating this long ago era of minor league baseball history in Altoona, PA. And I was looking at the Altoona Mud Turtles roster of 1893 and 94. And, I'm a simple man. So one name jumped out, Piggy Ward. Piggy Ward was a Mud Turtle in 1893. And Piggy, that same year, also played for the Cincinnati Reds, where he reached base 17 consecutive times, which is, I believe, tied with a record that still stands today. So the same year old Piggy was a Mud Turtle, he was also in Cincinnati, getting on base consecutively at a record clip. The things you learn.
The Mud Turtles logo sort of makes me think of the old logo for the Beloit Snappers, which was also like a very kid-looking turtle, an adorable little child-looking turtle. Maybe that guy moved on, the Beloit now, obviously the Sky Carp, maybe he moved on and now he's taken his wares east, I guess, to be a mud turtle now.
Just took him a few years, as it is.
Yeah.
As is the case for most turtles.
That's a very good point. That was 5 years ago that Beloit did that rebrand. Okay, so Altoona, we have a rebrand from the state of Michigan, a team that will be going by the locator, the geographic designator, Michigan. But we have a whole bunch of minor league teams in Michigan. But this is a new, interesting alternate identity for one of those Michigan state squads.
Yeah, that Michigan State squad. I believe there are three Michigan teams in minor league baseball: the West Michigan Whitecaps, the Lansing Lugnuts, and this third team will be playing as the Michigan Dogmen this upcoming season. That would be the Great Lakes Loons. The Loons play in Midland, Michigan, and if you've never heard of Midland, Michigan, it's not a huge city. It's a smaller market size than a lot of minor league where a lot of minor league ballparks are located, but it's the home of Dow Chemical. So they have a lot more money for sports and culture and the support of such things via the largesse of Dow Chemical. But that's neither here nor there. They will be playing as the Dogmen, the Michigan Dogmen, and this logo is fierce. The dog looks a little bit more like a werewolf, or Sam, so you pointed out, a Wolverine.
I think it's going for both of those things. Like, it wants you to think about werewolves, but also the fact that this is like a blue and yellow look to it. It is the Dogmen. It is Michigan, as you pointed out. Without being the Wolverines, it's Wolverine adjacent. So you're getting a little bit of, the University of Michigan in here, but also having your own stamp on it. And Ben, why is it the Dogmen exactly?
Yeah, this is another one. I think I'm gonna have to reach out to the team because their supplementary materials seem almost like they were written by AI. The sound crickets, crackling fires, and maybe a howl in the distance. We're the team for every camper, storyteller, and adventurer at Michigan. So gather around the fire, listen close, and let's make memories together. But Michigan, the Michigan Dogman is one of those enduring myths, a localized version of Bigfoot, Yeti, the Abominable Snowman, the Loch Ness Monster, of this strange dog, half man, half dog creature that lurks in the woods of Michigan. So there's a lot of lore and stories and legends about the Michigan Dogman. An interesting thing in my very cursory research is it seems to be part of the Dogman lore is that the Dogman appears every 10 years at years ending in 7. So I'm a little confused. I'll have to get Great Lakes on the line here. I'm a little confused why they're releasing this in 2026 when the Dogman, but maybe this is the Dogman cometh. Maybe they're just letting him know he's welcome for his 2027 return. But it is a really cool looking identity, and I'm sure there's a lot of Dogman stories that the team has yet to share. So I'm interested in learning more about this one beyond what has been provided so far. So that's Great Lakes Loons becoming the Michigan Dogmen.
And one thing I'll throw out here is, I feel like I've done this a few times with alternate identities, is I request hats be made out of some of the logos, and they have a sleeve detail that is like, it's fire logs crossed and it's got a flame to it. The flame obviously making an M for Michigan. That would go so well on a hat. It fits so, it's a round circle, so I get it why it's the sleeve detail and not a hat. I checked, they don't have it on the website yet. Maybe they are turning that into an alternate hat for this alternate identity down the line. But they do have one of the better shirts I've seen in minor league baseball that we spread around the office actually after this announcement. It's literally, I got that dog in me, with the Michigan Dogman in the middle. I feel like that's going to sell like hotcakes once they get it out there and in games. But yeah, it's like so many things. I didn't know what the Dogmen were before this. I didn't know what a Dogman was. Now, if I ever go out to that area,
They're going to be on the lookout.
Camping in years ending in 7. Yeah.
I got that dog in me. It is somewhat terrifying. Okay, Ben, Wichita, the Wichita Wind Surge, there is a very proud baseball history to draw from in that area, and an interesting history outside of baseball, of course. Wichita's got an alt identity for this year coming up.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of this is Wichita's proud history they're drawing from here, but it's the Honkers, the Wichita Honkers. So suppress your juvenile giggles. This is, of course, a tribute or homage to geese. And as the team says, they're They're our city's unofficial traffic controllers, Canada Geese, slow rolling across the asphalt to winning every shouting match they start. These geese are the real kings of the road in Wichita. So it's just a tongue-in-cheek salute to Wichita's large goose population, geese population, honker population.
Honker
I mean,
population.
what my mind goes to is that, did you guys know, obviously there's the band Geese, which is very popular now.
Yes.
A Brooklyn-based band, appeared on Saturday Night Live just a few weeks ago. There's also a band called Goose. I want both of those bands to finally come together at a Honkers game. Let's make that happen in Wichita.
That's a pretty great
If not this
idea,
year, then.
actually.
Yeah.
Does sound pretty good.
Goose, geese, join forces for the honkers. This one, it's a cool logo. The goose in question in the primary logo is almost has turned his mouth, his bill, into a horn, just the way he's like honking like a horn. And this is basically saying, what they're saying is, these geese are annoying, but hey, there are geese, so let's pay tribute to them.
I imagine there's going to be like horns in the ballpark. Would that be a giveaway that they would do? Is that's got to be allowed in some ways, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Noisemakers,
those vuvuzelas from the 2010 World Cup.
Yeah, cowbells, honkers. You can.
Yeah.
I'm imagining, the horns with the little bulbs.
Yeah. Just everybody just squeeze the horn and
like an old timey bike horn. I will say this is not the first Wichita team that will be named after birds. They were formerly home to the Wichita Eagles in the Kansas State League back in 1898, but they were also home to the Wichita Larks, 1927 and 28. But between those, I just want everyone to know that Wichita's teams were named the Wichita Jobbers, Jobbers. No idea what that name would be in reference to. The Wichita Witches, pretty great. And the Wichita Izzies, Izzies. I don't know if that's named after somebody named Izzy, but some pretty honkers I feel like fits right in with those.
It does. And, we already have the Beloit Sky Carp, which is its own slang term for geese, but now we have geese being celebrated in the alternate identity landscape as well. So we've talked about honkers, dogmen, mud turtles. We got one more. And this one is yard goats. It also serves as a throwback identity. They will be playing 2 games this year as the Hartford Rockcats. And as you may remember, prior to the Hartford Yard Goats coming into existence in the year 2016, a season in which they played on the road because their ballpark wasn't ready. But regardless, that franchise had moved from also in Connecticut, fairly nearby, New Britain. And New Britain was home to the Rockcats. New Britain hosted an Eastern League team going back to the early 80s. In 1995, they changed their name to the Rockcats. As you may recall, they were originally named the Hardware City Rockcats, a shout out to New Britain being quote unquote Hardware City, primarily due to, was it Stanley? Stanley Tools was headquartered there, I believe, leading to the Hardware City name. They just changed to New Britain Rockcats in 1997. And they played as the New Britain Rock 97 through 2015 before moving to Hartford. So now, 11 years after that final New Britain Rockcats game, Hartford's bringing it back, playing as the Hartford Rockcats on 2 nights at the end of June at Duncan Park in Hartford, Connecticut. And on one of those nights, I believe it's June 28th, they're giving away a David Ortiz Rockcats bobblehead. He was on the 1997 Rockcats when he was still known as David Arias. And he was on a team with Torrey Hunter and Doug Mankiewicz. So that's a heavy hitting AA team to have David Ortiz, Torrey Hunter, and Doug Mankiewicz all on that 1997 squad. But it's Ortiz who was getting the bobblehead. So cool to see the Yard Goats bring that one back. That's obviously one that is going to do big numbers locally because a lot of people have great memories of the New Britain Rockcats who played at New Britain Stadium, is I believe what it was called. I went to the final Rockcats game ever, and I couldn't find the article I wrote about it because internet links degrade.
Yeah.
They say the internet is forever. It is frustrating. I cannot find things from my deep and vast oeuvre.
But like you said, I mean, this is going to do absolute gangbusters because, and kudos to the team for doing this. when they announced it, they had the footage, tiny footage. It's really not that old. Yeah. It's like a decade plus old, but still, of that final game, the Rockets walking off the victory.
It went like 15 innings, the final game ever. And I remember that it was like sold out at the start, and it was just like all this like nostalgic atmosphere. But as the evening went on, the day went on, turned to evening, it became just the diehards, even though it was the last game. I found that in the past in various things like that. You'd think like these fans would be crying till the final out, but after about the 8th inning, they're like, nah. We said goodbye. Time to get out of here.
Right. Well, they did. So they had footage of that, but then they also had footage of, and we've talked about this plenty on the show, of those minor league songs, right, that just get in your head and they just become earworms forever. The New Britain Rockets, if you lived in Western Massachusetts or Northern Connecticut or Central Connecticut, and you just heard These Cats Rock over, like it felt years and years and years. Like I could sing that song. I'm not going to. I swear I'm not going to. But that was just such a key piece of watching maybe Nesson games or like whatever local TV. That's how they got the word out, was with that catchy jingle. So they're bringing it back. I'm sure it's going to be blaring all through Duncan Park in late June during those games. But a lot of people will be very excited and happy to see Rockettes come back, even if it's just for a couple nights there.
It is cool too that they the Goats sort of updated the Rockets logo with their current color scheme and all the rest. So it's a neat unification of the two eras of baseball in that region. And Ben, from Alt Identities, we're going to pivot. We got some cool promo schedule announcements, and we're going to start in Hudson Valley, where the Renegades have rolled out their 2026 promos.
Yeah, all this talk about alternate identities, back in the day, it wasn't always about alternate identities. So I wanted to shout out the Hudson Valley Renegades, High A affiliate of the New York Yankees, because they released their promo schedule earlier this week. Headline, Schmear Campaign, an ode to cream cheese highlights 2026 Renegades theme night schedule. And I love that of all the things they're doing this year, they said, you know what, our ode to cream cheese is how we're leading with this. This is going to be our biggest night of the year. And as they explain in the press release, cream cheese was apparently a quote accidental invention by dairyman William Lawrence in Chester, which is around the Hudson Valley, in 1872, who developed cream cheese when he added cream to the process of producing Neufchâtel cheese. This developed a richer cheese that he called cream cheese, which has been a staple ever since. A couple years later, he teams up with another guy, and they start selling Philadelphia cream cheese, even though they were there in the Hudson Valley. So Philadelphia cream cheese does not have Philadelphia roots. It has Hudson Valley roots. So the Renegades on August 25th, as part of their Schmear campaign, are setting the record straight. Cream cheese, it's from Hudson Valley. We don't know why they called it Philadelphia. I mean, I'm sure that's we could find that. Well, every time.
Do your own research at home.
Your own research. Every time we do these podcast segments, like I'm just like, oh yeah, I should look into that. I should look into that. There's just so much to keep track of right now, and so I'm looking forward to that. There's been some other promo schedule releases recently, and I'm populating my spreadsheet with in a lot of my spare time here at the office. I'll just mention one more thing. The Louisville Bats on June 27th. This got me excited in the office just because it's so random. June 27th. It's backyard baseball night with a Pablo. Why can I not say his name? Pablo Sanchez character appearance, but that's not what got me excited. The Bronson Arroyo Band is doing a post-game concert.
Like, wow,
that's a great minor league baseball post-game concert when you got Bronson Arroyo, probably most associated with the Reds.
Is he?
Red Sox. I remember when I lived in Pittsburgh pitching for the Pirates, but
I would think of him as a Red. I think I would think Bronson Arroyo Red first.
It depends. It's a personality quiz. Where when you think Bronson Arroyo, where did you see him?
Which Bronson Arroyo are you?
Yeah.
Man,
I saw Bronson Arroyo throw a perfect game for Pawtucket, so that's why he's in my head.
That's pretty cool. He did the majority of his career with the Reds.
Show.
9 years with the Reds, 3 with the Red Sox, 3 with the Pirates, 1 with the D-backs, which I had forgotten. Only 7 games for 14 games. Sorry, 14 games in his final stint with the D-backs in 2014. And then he randomly was back in 2017 and pitched 14 games that year again for the Reds at 40 years old. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Sam, you have to take all that up with Bronson Arroyo.
Yeah, when you're there, Sam, we're getting him on the record right now. He is going to Louisville on June 27th to see the Bronson Arroyo Band play at the home of the Reds AAA affiliate. Yeah,
and it'll be part of our new podcast segment, Bourbon with Bronson.
Yeah,
and we're just gonna let it flow from there. Just see how things. It'll be like that. Is that a Chris Farley bit from SNL? Hey, remember that thing?
Yeah, remember that cool? Time you did that thing? Did you like that?
That was cool, huh?
Yeah. That is Hudson Valley. We had a very cool. I wasn't present for this, but yesterday you guys got to sort of be on the ground as a really cool promo for 2026 was announced, featuring friend of the podcast, Emma Tiedemann of the Portland Sea Dogs.
Yeah, she is a friend of the podcast. We've all been Emma Tiedemann fans for years. She first broke into minor league baseball as a broadcaster in 2018 with the Lexington Legends. She's been with Portland, AA Boston affiliate since 2020. And yesterday in the morning, not too long after I started my workday, Emma came by and said hello. She happened to be in our MLB's New York City offices for a National Girls and Women in Sports Day panel and associated events around that. So it was cool to see Emma. Nice to talk to her for a few minutes. Didn't think much of it beyond that. And then about an hour later, I happened to see on social media the Portland Sea Dogs say, a timed announcement with National Girls and Women in Sports Day saying, hey, when we celebrate women in sports at the ballpark on August 21st, the first 1,000 fans get a talking Emma Tiedemann bobblehead. And I was like, whoa, Emma Tiedemann's in the office today. So tracked her back down, did an interview with Emma about her bobblehead announcement, because how often do you end up in the same building the same day someone's talking bobblehead is announced? So we'll just play that interview because it's just about 2 minutes long, and we can hear from Emma herself about being the recipient of a talking bobblehead, which to my mind is just about the highest honor anyone can achieve. I'm here with Emma Tiedemann, the voice of the Portland Sea Dogs. It's National Girls and Women in Sports Day, and on that day it was announced that the Portland Sea Dogs on August 21st are going to give away a talking Emma Tiedemann bobblehead. What is your reaction to this ultimate honor?
I mean, no one grows up wanting to be a bobblehead, so it's a huge honor. But all jokes aside, I think it's a really special thing that somebody in our front office had, and everybody sort of rolled with it. And in any way that we can kind of showcase that broadcasting could be an avenue for a little girl in Maine or really anywhere in the country to take on one day is really cool to see. So maybe she'll get a bobblehead and want to be a broadcaster.
Yeah, it'll certainly be an inspiring item, and it's a talking bobblehead, and this is based on one of your historic or favorite calls. What will people hear when they hear this bobblehead talk?
So they will hear the final out of our second no-hitter of a season. A couple of years ago, we actually were lucky to have 2 in 1 year, and so they'll hear the final out of that call. Excellent. You've been calling games now for better part of a decade. Yep.
And voice of the Sea Dogs going back to 2020, AA Boston affiliate. You've worked a couple Red Sox games. Where does having a bobblehead rank among your career accomplishments?
I mean, I guess it has to be up there, right? Bobbleheads are such a huge thing. There's only going to be 1,000 of them. So be sure to obviously line up early. No, I think it's a really cool, unique thing that I don't know, that I have to make room on my bobblehead shelf for, I guess. But just to be immortalized via that way is the most minor league baseball thing ever. So I think it's pretty cool.
Well, I hope you can make room on your shelf for your own bobblehead. And finally, we're here talking on National Girls and Women in Sports Day. You are visiting New York City from Portland here in the MLB offices. What have you been doing to celebrate this day and to spread the message of working in sports?
Yeah, walking around in this beautiful office is really cool, and it's really encouraging to see how many women that I've passed in the halls, and then to talk with really the next generation of women throughout the entire day of whether they want into coaching, into ticketing, into broadcasting. It's really cool to see how bright our future is in the whole grand scheme of the landscape of baseball. It's really encouraging.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Emma, and congratulations again on the talking bobblehead.
Thanks, Ben.
Good stuff from Emma. Big congratulations to Emma Tiedemann, a living legend in the game of baseball and now immortalized in talking bobblehead fame. Before we wrap up this week's episode of Ben's Biz Banter, we have an update to some hugely influential power rankings, and those are Ben Hill's favorite mascots in minor league baseball. Now, this has been a big change in recent years because Shelley no longer around, formerly the mascot of the Modesto Nuts. And I know that's difficult to say goodbye to Shelley. But Ben, a lot goes into the mascot power rankings. What do you got?
Yeah, a lot goes into it. Me interrogating myself and saying, like, who am I going to pick?
Many meetings with yourself.
Yeah. This is one of the articles that lives on the Minor League Ballpark Guide landing page, kind of best mascots in minor league baseball. And there's no scientific ranking. It's not based on a huge vote. It's just me picking ones I like. I've updated the story several times through the years, partially to keep it fresh, partially when I have to, based on changes in the minor league landscape. So I did change a few things around. I don't have to get into all my picks, but I will mention that, yes, putting my favorite mascot at the single A level, it was difficult because it used to be the Modesto Nuts triumvirate of Al Almond and Wally the Walnut and Shelley the Pistachio, who I particularly loved even. And Modesto, of course, is no longer with us in the affiliated ranks, although, of course, they have a new Pioneer League team coming next year. And so I had to think long and hard about who my new favorite single A mascot is or would be. And as I'm talking right now, I'm like, who was it? I forget what I even put. I've had so much going through my mind. I forgot. It is. Oh, yeah, of course. I knew I did that. Bernie with the Inland Empire 66ers. Bernie is a true classic. If you've never seen Bernie at the ballpark, he goes, woo, constantly. And not many mascots make vocalizations at all. I do remember when I first visited Reno, maybe 2012 or so, their mascot Archie, who was a total weirdo, just this huge Sasquatch kind of figure with a gigantic mouth and tongue. Archie just flat out talked. And then when I visited Reno again many years later, they were like, oh yeah, Archie doesn't talk anymore. It wasn't part of the lore. They didn't really have a story. I just think they had a performer who didn't feel comfortable talking. And they're like, yeah, there's no reason for this guy to really talk. But Archie is the only one I actually had a direct comment. No, that's not true. Roscoe the Rooster, the Princeton Rays.
Yeah, Princeton, a legend.
Yeah. So it's a very small fraternity of talking mascots. Bernie does not say any words that we understand, but he says that woo. He's got pots and pans on the dugout. He's just one of those classic mascots too, kind of like the early mascots or the Philly Fanatic or whatever, where you don't really. He's just Bernie. It's not like, oh, he's this type of dog. He's this type of cat. He's this type of moose or elephant or whatever. He's a raccoon. He's a skunk. No, he's just Bernie. He's his own singular being and a great mascot. So we could talk about mascots a long time. But if I just said to you guys, we don't have to do it by level. Just, bam, minor league mascot. Stands out. Favorite.
Winston-Salem Dash is Bolt. Bolt is my guy. Bolt will forever be my guy. I don't know. I haven't been to a Winston-Salem Dash game in quite some time. I don't know how Bolt's personality is these days, but Bolt was adorable to the point that I found Bolt distracting during games because I just wanted to watch whatever goofy, fun, sweet thing Bolt was doing. And then it'd be like, I don't know, it counts 2-2. I don't know what happened on that last pitch.
Does Mr. Baseball count in Reno?
He's not a mascot so much. Mr. Baseball is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's just because you said Reno and I have that in my head. I just love that so much. I know not all visiting announcers may love Mr. Baseball in the same way I love Mr. Baseball. I'm going to just shout out Smiley from the Woo Sox because when my nephew went to his first game and I went with him to a Woo Sox game, pretty sure it was his first game, I just remember him like standing up in his seat and yelling Smiley and just trying to get him over. And I was like, Liam, we can go walk over this. I can get Smiley for you right now. Like, I have some pull here. And he's just like, no. I just want to stand here and wait. I was just like, okay. So, he does exactly what you want mascots to do. He brings smiles to the ballpark literally by existing. But also you can see like just the trail of kids who get excited to see Smiley walk past. So good use by the Woo Sox of a part of their logo and turning that into an actual character that kids can interact with.
There's some
Yeah,
pretty
and
good
we could go
stuff.
on about mascots, but Tyler, you mentioned Winston-Salem Dash, and it reminded me of another little tidbit from this week that I feel is worth mentioning before we wrap up this segment, long and rambling segment, but so many good things to talk about. The Winston-Salem Dash this week installing bidets in their clubhouse toilets.
Incredible. What
And
a
they
choice.
did that because the White Sox signed.
Yeah.
How do you say his name?
Munitaki Murakami.
Yes, I am so bad with names.
Murakami. They signed Murakami. The White Sox also announced that they were installing bidets, which is something the Red Sox did back when they signed Daisuke Matsuzaki.
Yeah.
Apparently,
This story
a lot of
happens
Japanese players.
every time a Japanese player gets signed to an MLB team, there's always a story, because this happened when Ohtani went to the Dodgers, or maybe Roki Sasaki had signed with the Dodgers, but there was that. They did it at Dodger Stadium. They did it. If you have not had the life-changing experience that a bidet is, then you'd be like, that's weird. If you have been lucky enough to go to Asia and see how part of the culture those are, you'll get like, it's the smartest decision anyone could ever make. So the White Sox are playing 4D chess now. They're one of those teams. They have advanced beyond the realm of mere mortals.
Yeah, and great work by the Dash, just taking that little tidbit. Having
That's
the
pretty cool.
days in baseball news through the signing of Murakami.
You never know if he'll rehab down there. I don't think they're doing this
exactly.
in anticipation of him opening up with Winston-Salem. But hey, if he has to pick his rehab place, maybe he wants to go to Winston-Salem.
He's like Charlotte, the bidets, no.
Yeah.
Birmingham, no.
I'm going to Winston.
Annapolis, nope. I'm going to Winston-Salem.
If this is what it takes to make bidets a more common and regular thing in American society, I am all for it. And big ups to the trailblazers of bidet installation across Major League Baseball. Well, good stuff as always from Benjamin Hill. Ben's Biz Banter, as always, presented by Circle K, the official convenience store of minor league baseball. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everyone else, for listening. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, Sam, now we're headed on field, and you've got our conversation for this week's episode of the show. Tee it up for us.
Yeah, this happened a few weeks ago as part of the Rookie Career Development Program, which is something that each team sends a few representatives to. It used to be in person. Now it's mostly over Zoom, but it's a good opportunity for players to hear from other players, to hear from other people around the game of what is it like to be a major leaguer? Not just in terms of what are the adjustments you have to make at the plate or on the mound, but just lifestyle things. What's coming your way in terms of media, in terms of just everyday life. So as part of that, we're given the opportunity to interview some of the players. You heard one of those interviews a few weeks back with Carter Jensen, the top prospect in the Kansas City Royals system, somebody who saw the major leagues at the end of last year. This one is with a player who is awaiting his major league debut and in an interesting situation. It's Griff McGarry, currently of the Washington Nationals. He was a Rule 5 pick from the Philadelphia Phillies back in December. So he's going to try to break camp with the Nationals, stick with that team. Obviously, the Nationals are in rebuild mode. They have a few roster spots to play with. Griff McGarry showed elite stuff early on in his Phillies career, but really struggled with control in the last few years. 2024, they sent him to the bullpen. Didn't work out there. He was actually Rule 5 eligible then, not protected, not picked. This year, they sent him back to the starting rotation. Seemed to get a little bit better in terms of that control. Obviously, improved enough for the Nationals to think he might be worthy of a major league spot. So we touch on what the Rookie Career Development Program is like, also the improvements that allowed him to go in the Rule 5 draft, and just what his outlook is on the Washington Nationals and their rebuild and his chances. So this is my conversation with Griff McGarry.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Well, we're joined here by Griff McGarry, Rule 5 pick by the Washington Nationals, taking him from the Philadelphia Phillies, who is a participant in the rookie career development program. Griff, thanks so much for being here. First off, this rookie career development program, it's set up for guys who are potentially going to be making their major league debut, who are knocking on the door. What are you hoping to get out of this?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, just really excited for the opportunity. Yeah, going to a great organization with a new staff, and yeah, just really looking forward to the opportunity, foot in the door. Just got to make the most of it.
Mhm. Yeah, and what are some of the things they're setting up for you in terms of like what that MLB debut will be like, and not just on the field, but off the field stuff as well?
With the rookie program?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of it is just kind of intro to the transition to the big leagues. They've had a bunch of former MLB players, current MLB players kind of speak to us so far and just give insights on, day-to-day things, how to carry yourself on and off the field, you know, resources to reach out to. Yesterday we focused a lot on, the NFSF certified supplements and just how to navigate that. And you just pretty much using your resources. It's just kind of a layout of things that are available to MLB players that are making the transition to the big leagues.
Mhm. Yeah, and you touched on it. Obviously, an interesting offseason for you, switching organizations in the Rule 5 draft. You've been through this before. You were Rule 5 eligible last year, didn't get picked this time, going and staying in the NL East, going from the Phillies to the Nationals. What was your initial reaction when you found out your name was going to be called on Rule 5 day?
Yeah, I mean, I was super excited. Just grateful for the opportunity that the Nats have given me, and all I could think about was just going and making the most of it in spring training. I had a great time with the Phillies. They're an awesome organization, but I'm just really excited for this next step and this next opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned it too. It's not only a brand new front office for you that you're dealing with, it's a brand new front office for everybody in Washington. I know that doesn't affect you too much, but what have your initial discussions been like in terms of expectations for prep and also expectations going into the spring?
Yeah, nothing too heavy. Just kind of keeping the off season the same. But I've spoken with a few people in the front office and a few of the pitching guys. So yeah, everybody seems great. It's young and a lot of energy and yeah, a lot of cool names that I'll be working with this spring. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you say there's a lot of energy, what has come up in those initial conversations? Is it, hey, this is something we've identified in your mix? Is it this is how we want you to prep a little differently? Anything like that?
Yeah. Just when I say energy, it's just very vibrant personalities that are super excited. It seems like they're just excited as I am, which is pretty cool. And yeah, there's been a few conversations about hey, we love this. Keep hammering this. Especially with my fastball slider combo that I kind of was able to make great changes with last year. So just kind of continued focus on those and. Yeah, nothing too crazy yet. I haven't really gotten to work with them, but looking forward to in a couple weeks here, getting out on the field with them and starting to put that stuff into actuality. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to come back to the mix in a second, but you said you're trying to keep things mostly the same this offseason. I imagine there's a certain temptation to change things, knowing that an MLB job is literally potentially waiting for you in spring. That's a little different. How do you kind of separate those two of like, this is a normal offseason, but also not because of the Rule 5 opportunity?
Yeah. I think, feeling a little bit, I think more comfortable just since I've been through a few MLB camps so far. So, somewhat know what to expect, but yeah, I'm not going to change too much. I liked what I built off last year and, I really want to keep hammering that and continue that into next season. Obviously there's still stuff to work on and, minor tweaks, but as a whole, just, trusting what I've done and, I'll keep an open mind heading into spring, but, just going to try to make the most of it with, everything that I have now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the storylines for you last year was going back to the rotation after pitching out of the bullpen in 2024 with mixed results. Last year, it seemed like the control improved with that move. How much did that affect you in terms of being a starter again, and how did that affect not only your stuff, but just your outlook?
Yeah. I think I was able to get into a good routine. We had a great coaching staff and, support staff down in Reading. So, was working with awesome people and, yeah, I think I just got back into a good routine and, kind of was able to fill up the zone a lot better. And, that's something I'm going to continue to do with the Nats, wherever they have me, I'll be ready to, keep it the same and try to focus on that.
Yeah, when you talk about the routine, was it stuff you were doing in between starts, like focusing on the control? What allowed it to at least make modest gains in 25?
Yeah, I think just the consistency of every day. I mean, not every day you're going to have the same outcome, but if you prepare the same way and if you focus on doing things the same way, um, I think there's a lot of value to that. It just kind of creates a little bit more of a consistent, um, you know, I don't want to say routine because that's what I was just referencing, but kind of a
Yeah.
consistent basis, right? And yeah, I think that benefited me a lot. It wasn't too much variation between each day the way I prepared and and bullpens and stuff. I kept it very very similar week to week. There was no I want to work on this. I want to work on this. It was just kind of the same focus each pen. And yeah, I think started to see a lot more strikes being thrown. And yeah, I just want to continue that next year.
Yeah, when you say there was a pretty primary focus, what was that then in those pens?
Specifically with my fastball and slider, just a little bit of focus on targeting. Just working on the inner half. Especially picturing righty hitters in there and work. Focusing on working in, just throwing everything arm side. We had noticed a tendency from the year before was kind of slightly glove side miss. So just wanted to focus on being in zone on the inner half of the plate to a righty. And I think that kind of set me up well for a lot of my starts. And I'm going to continue to work on that in bullpens.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. For some guys, it's an approach mentality type thing. For others, it's a mechanical tweak. It seems like it's more on the approach side for you in terms of what allowed that to unlock a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. There wasn't too much focus on mechanics. It was more just, being free and easy, but having a little bit more intent with, where I'm throwing the ball and focusing on having an arm side miss as opposed to, glove side. So.
Yeah, and you touched on that fastball slider for you. The slider, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it looks like there's a sweeper variation and a more traditional variation. Why are you able to, discern those two, and what's the difference for you in terms of where you use them?
Yeah. So I do throw both, kind of a shorter slider and then a bigger sweeper as well. The sweeper, I think, for me is kind of any count. I really focus on the slider, the tighter slider, when I'm looking for something in zone or, wanting to force contact, especially if I'm down in the count, something different than a heater. But yeah, no, I utilized both last year and think I got to get a good rhythm with how I use them and when to throw them. So.
Yeah, and with the sweeper, especially one as big as yours, I feel like it's easy to kind of chase metrics with it and get as much glove side as you want. What is the ideal sweeper for you?
I mean, for me, just in zone. I think you can focus on locations, but sometimes that thing's going to take off a little bit more than you expect. So just trying to be in zone as much as possible with it. It's a pitch because it's so big. There's a lot of ground to cover as a hitter. So if you can throw that thing in zone, you're going to get weak contact or just swing and miss. So I think just that's really my only focus. I'm not as focused on the metric side of it and what it's doing, just kind of trusting it and throwing it, through the zone and making them put the ball in play and do something with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is the origin of the sweeper for you? Because I feel like when you started your pro career, that wasn't exactly a pitch type that was on the tip of everybody's tongue. Now you hear it a lot, but like, when did you introduce it and how is it different now from when you first started using it?
Yeah, so I think I was kind of somewhere in between with my slider. With the two that I have now, it was just kind of like a downward slider, almost like a slurve, and it played well. But I think just had to make an adjustment at some point. I think probably within the last 2 years. I think some of my workout in the fall league kind of helped with that, and then I really found it heading into last season, just working with the guys in spring training. It wasn't like, hey, try this, try this. It was just kind of I'd gotten a good feel for, what I needed to do with my hand, as I'm delivering the ball to get that horizontal movement. And then, yeah, just was able to lock it in and kept it the same all year. There wasn't too much alteration, but I think heading in the off season in 24, the work in the fall league in 24 into 25 kind of set it up well for last year.
Yeah, when you talk about knowing what to do with your hand, is that a grip thing? Is that a trigger thing? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just feel. I think some of it was that targeting that I focused on last year. Throwing it through, let's say like a right hand hitter's in the box, throwing it through the hip as opposed to trying to bend it there, right? So it's a little bit more focus on just ripping the ball through a specific, zone, right, or specific target. And I think it's just a lot of it is it's just the feel out in front. You're not spinning the side of the ball, but you're kind of not overly focused on spinning the side of the ball. I mean, but just ripping it. And that's kind of the main focus, just ripping it through that right-hander's batter's box and letting the rest do its thing.
Yeah, and with the fastball, because you mentioned it's mostly fastball slider for you. You're somebody who gets pretty good extension off the mound that helps it play up. There's a little bit of a flat approach angle to it. Is there a next step for your fastball, or do you feel like it's in pretty good rounded shape right now?
Yeah, I think it's in pretty good rounded shape. I mean, I definitely would love to be more in zone with it, and that's my focus this off season, just hammering that. But I think definitely took a step in the right direction and want to continue that. Just working on the inner half of the plate a little bit more often, and making that miss be arm side. Just induce more contact, induce more swings. That's the goal. Just being in zone with it.
Yeah, and then in terms of a changeup or some other third pitch, something for lefties. I know you can back foot that sweeper against lefties as well. You can get that for some swing and miss down and in. But is that a focus, or is it just like, hey, this is what's been working for me, these 2/3 pitches with the slider variations?
Yeah, no, I still have those other pitches. So I throw changeup and then curveball as well. I'll go to the curveball, righties and lefties. Changeup is more primarily lefties. But yeah, not being afraid to throw both. I mean, I think I trust all my pitches and can feel like I can throw them in any count. It's just I think it's depends on the scenario, depends on the hitter when you'd go to that.
Yeah, and I feel like there's always some pitch that takes precedence. Like last year, everybody was talking about the kick change. Is that something you've ever kicked around, of especially somebody who has spinny stuff glove side? Is that something you've flirted with or thought about?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's just here and there during catch play, kind of messed around with it, but nothing. I haven't changed my grip on my changeup. But I know some guys that were throwing it last year and had great success. It's just hasn't been something I've focused as much on and dove into. I think I've primarily put my focus in my fastball and my slider, and I still have the same grip for my changeup.
Yeah, and how do you kind of balance that? We talked about trying to maintain the gains of last year with trying to get over the top, right, and get that major league opportunity that has eluded you to this point. How do you kind of balance that thought process of like wanting to change things up that could help you get over, and also trusting what's gotten you so far this far?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a balance to it. You have to have an open mind, especially when you're coming into a new organization that might have some new ideas for you and some things that could benefit you. And I think it's just it's a balance, just staying true to yourself, but also keeping an open mind if there's something that you want to try out. But I think if there's not a lot of immediate change or immediate success, it's sometimes hard to stick with something or try to change something. But for me, heading into spring, I'm gonna keep it pretty consistent with what I did last year, and I'll have an open mind, but not change too much of my general attack plan, my general focus.
Yeah, and kind of along those lines, I think you mentioned it earlier, but keeping an open mind in terms of role. Have they told you like, hey, prepare to come in as a starter, we'll move you back, or what have those early discussions been like?
It hasn't been too much focus on that. I think I'll probably get a better feel for that as I come into camp. But for me, I'm open to whatever, and just ready to compete for the Nats.
Yeah, I was a little surprised looking into last year because I was going to ask you about facing Harrisburg, but you didn't face Harrisburg last year in the Eastern League. It didn't seem like
didn't have any outings against them. No.
Yeah, which is crazy to me given the size of the Eastern League, but that's a different story. Have you reached out to anybody? Did you know anybody in the Nationals organization? Any players who you used to play with or got to know at the Fall League, anything like that, just to feel out what the org is like?
Yeah, yeah. I'd met a guy in the fall league, Eric Swan, who had recently been traded over there from the Dodgers. So he reached out when the selection was made, which is pretty cool. And then there's some guys that I train here at Cressy that I've gotten to know over the past couple of years, Josiah Gray and a couple others, and yeah, they're all great dudes. So I'm really looking forward to getting out and playing with them and getting to know them a little bit better.
Yeah, and just to kind of wrap this up between the rookie career development program and this prep as we close in on February and the reporting of pitchers and catchers, are you somebody who allows yourself to think about what that first MLB outing will be like, regardless if it's coming out of the pen or starting, and like thinking about what will be going through your mind on the mound?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think every guy does. It's, something most guys have dreamed about since they were really young. I think coming up, I definitely thought I was going to be a hitter, but, I was able to realize that after, some time in college and whatnot. But, yeah, no, yeah, since I've really put all my focus in pitching, that's always been on my mind. And, I'm hopefully looking forward to that opportunity this year. And, yeah, I just want to capitalize on it, just go in. And I think what every guy tells you is, you go in, you're going to have the nerves, you're going to, oh, don't look up, those kind of things. But I think just being in the moment, I think back to playing in Omaha in front of, 24,000 people. And, you kind of look back and you're like, all right, like it wasn't too big of a moment. So I think just trusting the confidence and trusting what you've done. And, the game plan doesn't change. It's all the same. It's 60 feet, 6 inches. So nothing different there. So yeah, just keeping it consistent and trusting what you've done in the past.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, did you have a mantra in Omaha or something that's happened like in a debut in a new level every time you got? I mean, the double A, triple A, they don't have that third deck, so it is a little different in terms of looking up. But like having gone through this process at least a little bit, is there anything you've taken away from that you could apply to the MLB, or is it just a different animal?
Yeah, no, I think, it obviously is a different animal, but I think if you really just go back to your roots and trust your preparation, trust, everything that you've done to get to that point, things will play out as they should. And, yeah, I think just going in there with confidence is the biggest part, feeling like you belong there and, knowing that you belong there. And, yeah, that's the most important piece that I'll focus on, and yeah, just trying to keep it the same. That's all it is.
All right, Griff. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck, this spring with the Nats and everything that's coming down the line for you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Sam.
Well, rolling along on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. Huge thanks to Griff McGarry for stopping by. And Sam, we have so much to discuss, and we're going to kick things off with a trade that was a pretty big, I don't want to say eyebrow raiser, but a trade that really made some waves earlier this week, in which the St. Louis Cardinals sent Brendan Donovan to the Seattle Mariners as part of a 3-team deal. The Cardinals, in exchange, have acquired 3 minor league prospects, 2 competitive balance round draft picks in that deal with the Mariners and Rays. This is obviously a trade that we're going to talk about in terms of the impact of which guys are moving where, because it wasn't just the Cardinals acquiring prospect talent, but the Rays in as part of this maneuvering as well. Give us the breakdown of this deal.
Yeah, so this one, it's fascinating. We can put this aside, but I'll just say it real quick. Kind of interesting how the Rays keep getting involved in these 3-team deals. And I think part of that is, it's some conversations I've had with people in baseball. The Rays always know somebody that they want. And if they find out that team is making a trade, they're like, hey, how can we get in on this? And what can we give up to get the guy we wanted all along and help you, move this other deal that you're trying to make along? So the Rays end up getting Ben Williamson. We'll put that off to his side. He's not a prospect, but he's a really good defender. He's somebody who they can put in at multiple different spots, potentially. I like him best at third base. Maybe they feature him at shortstop. But the big deal here from a prospect perspective is what the Cardinals got back. The number 1 prospect they got in this return was Durangelo Senja, who obviously has made tons of headlines since he was drafted 2 years ago now with the 15th overall pick out of Mississippi State to the Seattle Mariners. He is an ambidextrous pitcher, technically. Now, this deal was fascinating because over the weekend, the Mariners had said they were going to treat him as a right-handed pitcher. He might still throw lefty in some bullpens, keep that arm fresh, but given what we saw out of him as a right-hander, where the velocity was better, the command was better, everything was better for him as a right-handed pitcher in his first full season, that's where things are going to stay focused. And a day later, it turns out they trade him to the Cardinals. For their part, Chaim Bloom said the same thing. Yes, we might keep him fresh from the left side, but he's going to keep pitching from the right side exclusively in games unless something drastic happens here, which I think opens up some interesting possibilities because one of my themes the last few months is looking at two-way players, right? The Nolan McLeans, the Carson Benjes of the world who have really taken off when they focused on one side. What happens to Senja when he's only focused on throwing righty? Can he squeeze out a little bit more velo? I mean, it's right now already up into the upper 90s with some decent carry, and there's a good mid to upper 80s slider in there too. Bullpen sessions, again, maybe he'll mix in some stuff with lefty, but if he's only pushing righty, I think there's still some ceiling to be tapped into here with Senja. So that'll be fascinating. They also got Ty Pete from the Seattle Mariners. Ty Pete is somebody who I think has power, has speed, has a really good throwing arm. He transitioned to center field, did it pretty well. He could be an above average to plus center fielder. It's just so much is going to come down to the contact. He has not made consistent contact at any level so far in his pro career. He's going to be a fun project. I know a lot of Cardinals fans were looking at Joshua Baez from their system, right? He was somebody with some pop who also has a cannon of an arm, and they made some really good adjustments to him going into 2025, and he broke out. He's now a top 100 prospect. Somebody was like, oh, just put the Joshua Baez pixie dust on Pete and things will work out. Baez was a multi-year process. He was with the Cardinals for a long time. They're just getting Pete. Like maybe he breaks out this year. Maybe they identify something pretty quick. And obviously with their increased devotion to player development, maybe they unlock something for him pretty quickly. I think it's more likely to happen in 2027. He's just so far behind the eight ball so far in terms of contact, but still a really enticing project for the Cardinals. So that's an interesting one. They also get Colton Ledbetter from the Tampa Bay Rays in that deal. Colton Ledbetter, somebody who used to be a top 30 prospect for the Rays, also a Mississippi State guy. So he and Senja come together here as former teammates. Somebody really dropped off last year in Double-A, single-digit homers. Somebody who you would expect to have some power. Maybe you could play center field, features best in the corner. If he's going to do that, he's going to really need the power to come. I don't expect he'll rank among the top 30 prospects for the Cardinals when we update next month, whereas Pete certainly will, and Senja is number 91 overall on our top 100. The thing the Cardinals are doing right now, and this was always the interesting piece with Brendan Donovan, right? Like he was kind of the last shoe to drop in terms of the trades that they can make. Wilson Contreras going out, Sonny Gray going out, Nolan Arenado going to Arizona. What were they going to try to get back? Was it going to be somebody who they thought was major league ready, but didn't have quite the ceiling, but could help at least move things along pretty quickly? Or were they going to go for talent? Getting Senja is pretty good talent, and getting these 2 draft picks that you mentioned, Tyler, they now have 5 of the first 72 picks in next year's draft. Now, the bonus pools haven't been sorted yet in terms of like how much is assigned to each pick, but that's going to be a pretty serviceable and sizable, I should say, draft pool that they're going to have. So even if like you think, they only have the 13th overall pick, maybe they can float somebody down there, a high school player, who wants to sign for big money. They can give number 6 money to if they go on and make some senior signs in those first 72 picks. Like they can get creative here. Maybe they'll not choose to do that and just continue to build up the system. But the Cardinals draft strategy for 2026 is a lot more interesting now. And that's what needs to happen for a rebuilding organization. This is one that is clearly focused on the future. They're going to have some exciting pieces coming there this year. JJ Weatherholt, certainly this clears a spot for him now, right? Like there was some thought of, okay, Arenado's gone. Does JJ Weatherholt work at third base? I still think, and many evaluators still think, he features best at second. Well, now Brendan Donovan's out of the way. You can plug him into second base pretty quickly. How's a shortstop second base combo of Mason Wynn and JJ Weatherholt? Like that's something you don't have to dream on for very long. It's coming to St. Louis quick, and that could be your 1-2 for a long time. And hopefully by the time, their contention window opens up, those are going to be two pillars of their team. So that's exciting. I think the Cardinals did pretty well here. I got to say, like, if you were hoping for a Lazaro Montes, or some people were hoping for like a Ryan Sloan, I don't think that was going to happen in a deal like this. As much depth as the Mariners have at the top of their list, it peers off pretty quick after the top 100, but they have multiple top 100 names to deal. Giving up Senja is something that I think they can still weather, but also keep going for it, right? Like, this is an opportunity for the Mariners coming off last year and the heart-aching way that they lost the ALCS. Now they have a piece that can really help them. Brendan Donovan signed for the next 2 years, or is under contract for the next 2 years before he hits free agency. You can plug him in multiple spots. Maybe they open him at third base first. Hope that Colt Emerson forces his way through and they eventually move Donovan to second base if Cole Young isn't holding it down the way they hope. But Brendan Donovan is Seattle a good bat, a bunch of different options, and that's what they need if they're going to try to sneak past and finally break through to that World Series that has eluded them literally their entire franchise career.
All right, Sam, we are getting closer and closer to the start of baseball games that are going to mean a whole lot, and not just with the approaching 2026 regular season, but the World Baseball Classic is coming up, getting started the first week in March. We are getting full official rosters on Thursday, February 5th, on the night of the 5th on MLB Network. Did I just say 5th? The night of the 5th on MLB Network. If you missed that, if you're tuned in on Friday, you can catch all of that news, of course, at MLB.com. We have an idea of the biggest name prospects who are going to be taking part. Not a ton of huge surprises, but some really, really fun talent for young guys who are going to be part of this classic.
Yeah, just to go over a couple of those that we know are confirmed right now as we sit here, as we're recording on Thursday afternoon. The first one I'll start with is no to Team USA. Mark DeRosa, clearly watching a lot of those Mets starts for him last year, seeing the spinny stuff, seeing that it's clearly working at the major league level. He's our top pitching prospect in baseball for a reason. Now I'm fascinated to see how Team USA is going to use him. It's probably, I would guess, as a starter, but also that team is so deep in starters, headlined by Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens, the two best starting pitchers in all of baseball, regardless of country, regardless of league. So how
Nolan
does
McLean, the number
McLean
6
kind of
overall
factor into that?
prospect, by the way. Nolan McLean,
Yes.
as Sam noted, top-ranked pitching prospect, but the number 6 overall prospect. I would guess probably the highest-ranked prospect to play for USA Baseball in a classic to this point.
I would say so. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr., I think, was coming off his rookie year.
I think you're right.
Where it was very early in he was not prospect eligible when he made that team. So just fascinating to see them turn to this guy. And I think, again, it's because this stuff plays in the majors and everything we know about like Stuff Plus models and all that. You don't have to be like, oh, how is this going to work on the world stage? It's like, no, we have data to back this up. So very exciting to see him take an international look. And I think part of that is because his spot in the Mets rotation is extremely secure, which is not something I normally say about rookies. Now that brings me to my next two guys that I'll talk about here is Owen Casey, who's now of the Miami Marlins, formerly of the Chicago Cubs, and Harry Ford of the Washington Nationals, formerly of the Seattle Mariners. Owen Casey competing for Canada, Harry Ford competing for Great Britain. Harry Ford, as some might note him, Sir Harry Ford, has been one of the best players for Team Great Britain over the years. It's not a shock that he's going there, but I find it a little interesting that he is competing for Team GB, considering this is his first spring training with the Nats. He is trying to win a major league job. Like, it's him and Keibert Ruiz who are like going to be in competition for that number one opening day job behind the plate for the Nationals. I'm sure there's, the commitments he already made before the trade happened, and also the fact that for the Nationals, who are in a rebuild right now, it doesn't hurt if one of your new players goes out and shows out in an international competition, right? Like, that's valuable. You're hoping that Harry Ford is playing important games for you in a few years. And if he's playing important games in spring, you can make an argument that that's only going to help him further in his career. How is it going to help him in the race against Kyber Ruiz? Fascinated to see how that's going to go. Owen Casey, somebody who I think the Marlins are going to slot into their opening day right field spot, or at least will be in that conversation. But again, another guy who, like, Canada was kind of banking on to be a big bopper in the middle of that lineup, especially with Freddie Freeman not competing for Canada this year. It sounds like due to some personal reasons.
Yeah.
So, Owen Casey going and representing his country, going in an opportunity to be a big maple, right? To steal a nickname from James Paxton. That's good for Canada. And I'm fascinated to see how Canada's going to do this year with him there. But again, another opportunity for him to introduce himself to his new organization. And he's going to be spending a good chunk of that spring competing internationally. So we'll see how that goes too. I like the decision. I want to be clear about that. That both of those guys are playing. I want our best players, and by our, I mean all of baseball's best players in the WBC. So if Canada decides he's one of the best outfielders, send him. If Harry Ford is the best starting catching option for Team Great Britain, send him. I want him there. But it's notable that both of those guys, I think in the past, in previous iterations of the WBC, we would have seen them held back. And the fact that they're not is promising for what the event is and what the event could still become.
So, Sam, as we head closer to the start of the 2026 Major League season, a minor league season, we are, getting up to just a couple weeks away. We've got teams that are already traveling, getting started on their World Baseball Classic training camps and playing exhibition games and all the rest. It's going to be a lot of fun in 2026. I will be there. I'll be on the call in San Juan. I have not officially gotten to post that anywhere or anything yet, but we're inside of a month to go until games start, and I know that the announcement is coming soon. So I'll be there in San Juan for those 5 teams: Puerto Rico, Panama, Cuba, Colombia, and Canada. And that's going to be a bunch of fun. But we will be following the WBC and all things prospect related to it as we get closer and closer to first pitch coming up in the first week of March.
Before we go on to our final segment in that Name That Dude segment with Ben Hill, obviously I consider everybody who listens to the show, everybody who participates in the show, to be a friend of minor league baseball and a champion of minor league baseball in some ways. And one of the best champions of minor league baseball anywhere across the landscape is Emily Walden, whose work you might have seen across multiple different outlets, including Baseball America. I believe she also wrote for The Athletic for a time. But Emily Walden is somebody who cares about minor league baseball, covers it extremely well, covers it knowledgeably at multiple levels. Emily, who I've been friends with online for a very long time, announced recently that unfortunately she is somebody who has survived cancer once, and she's going through another cancer battle again. So I just want to give her a shout out that we're all thinking of her. We're all on Team Emily here at the show, before the show, and across minor league baseball. There are a couple of fundraising efforts that are going on right now. I'm actually wearing my Pitching Ninja shirt. That is pink for breast cancer. That is being sold again, with the profits for that going towards Emily and her fight. There's also a GoFundMe page that I believe she has shared on her Twitter account, so go search it there. If you are able and willing, I would ask you to throw a couple bucks her way, brighten her day every little bit. But we're all standing beside her. Can't wait to see her out at the ballpark. Every time I have seen her at a ballpark, it's always made my day. And she's somebody who's helped make the coverage of minor league baseball better, and minor league baseball as a whole better. So, like I said, with those 2 links, go search them out. If you can find it in your wallet, in your heart, to support Emily's journey, we would greatly appreciate it. Or also just send her warm thoughts, let her know you're thinking of her as she goes through this, as we are all thinking of her.
Yeah, could not agree more. And we send all of our best to Emily, and we will step aside for one final timeout. We'll get set to wrap this thing up. Benjamin Hill rejoins us after the break for Name That Dude, and then we say goodbye on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Final segment of this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. And before we wrap things up, it is time for this week's episode of Name That Dude, in which one of us picks a baseball dude from years past, and the other two go about guessing whom that dude is. Is that correct in that usage of whom? I don't know. Who cares?
I think it was.
Yes. Yes. Benjamin Hill's the dude knower this week. Sam Dykstra and I are the dude guessers. Ben, the floor is yours.
I got a dude. Like every dude, I feel like we've done him before, so to speak. And I hope we haven't. There's so many dudes out there. This dude was signed out of the Dominican Republic in 1982 and started his professional career very young at the age of 16 with the Gulf Coast League Blue Jays. In 1983, spent the whole season with the Florence Blue Jays, Florence, South Carolina, in the Class A Sally League. He was back there in 84 and also spent time in High A with Kinston. 85 in Kinston again. 86 Double A Knoxville. 87 Double A Knoxville. And then gets traded to Baltimore, spends a little time with Triple A Rochester, and also makes his major league debut in 1987 at the age of 21. That didn't stick. In Triple A and the minor leagues in general in the Baltimore system in 89 and 90, with splitting his time between Double A Hagerstown and Triple A Rochester. Back in the majors in 1990 with Baltimore, and for portions of 91, though he was back in Rochester for quite a long time. 92, Baltimore most of the year, then goes to Cleveland. And he's with Cleveland, the then Indians, 92 through 98. A brief stint with the Giants at the end of 98, then 2 years in Seattle, 99 and 2000. Then 3 years with the Philadelphia Phillies, 2001, 2003. 2 years with the Pirates, 2004, 2005. 2006 with Tyler Maughan's Colorado Rockies. 2007, his final season, splits it between the Phillies once again and the Detroit Tigers. He also pitched his final minor league game that season at the age of 41. One game with the AAA Detroit Tigers affiliate, Toledo Mudhens. And I guess I did say he pitched.
He did say he pitched, so that was...
This is a guy who made his pro debut in 1982 and pitched professionally through 2007.
I have a guess. And I don't think he was on the 06 Rockies. I think he was on like the 04 Rockies. But he's a guy who, no, I'm positive he wasn't on the 06 Rockies. Dang it. I was going to say Jeff Facero. Jeff Facero was going to be that guy.
But no,
that's a good guess.
Is it for a Dominican player?
Oh, well,
right.
yeah, you did say it's a
that part.
Dominican player. It was Jeff Facero, noted Santo Domingo native, Jeff Facero.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, you did. That was literally the first thing you said was that he was signed out of the Dominican.
It's okay. We get too caught up in the Rochester shuttle that this guy was on.
Yeah, I was just thinking about random old dudes who pitched for the Rockies in 2006.
This guy was a starter through his minor league career, which is a long minor league career on account of starting at the age of 16. And his initial time in the major leagues was as a starter. But then by the late 80s, 1990, by 89-90, he was a reliever to stay.
Man.
Actually, that's not quite true. He still started some all the way through 93. He switched around a little bit, but actually, yeah, with Cleveland in 92 and 93, he was a starter.
It wasn't Jose onward. Jimenez, was it?
It was not, but 94 onward, a reliever, and not just a reliever, often a closer. A closer with...
this is like right on the tip of my tongue here.
Yeah, a closer with primarily the Indians in the mid-90s.
Oh, I think I know
and
what
then
this
also
is.
A run of closer type seasons with the Phillies, especially.
I think I know
early
what this
2000s.
is.
All right, who is it?
Did he happen to have a long-running feud with Omar Vizquel in which he would plunk Omar Vizquel every time he came to the plate? And
That
if
sounds
so,
familiar.
was it Jose Mesa?
Correct.
It was
Joe
Jose. I was
Table.
thinking that, like, it was Jose Mason.
Joe
I thought about
Table.
jumping in and just being like Jose Mason, but no, I didn't do it.
So one of the funniest feuds in baseball history. Jose Mesa was name checked in Omar Vizquel's, I believe in his autobiography, which Omar Vizquel wrote an autobiography by like the early 2000s. That's kind of weird. But in which he basically blamed the loss of the 97 World Series for the Indians on Jose Mesa. He said like he went to a, meeting at the mound and Jose Mesa just like didn't have it. He looked scared and it was his fault. So after that book, which I'm looking up, came out in 2003, Jose Mesa hit Omar Vizquel every time he faced him from that point forward, including in this 2006 story from MLB or from ESPN, in which this is from May of that year. Or I guess was last updated in May of that year. But he says, Vizquel said he fully expects that Mesa will try to plunk him, just as he expected it in the April 21st to 23rd series in Colorado. In the 8th inning of the second game, Mesa's first pitch to Vizquel drilled him in the upper back. Vizquel said, quote, I think it's kind of dumb, the whole thing. He's thinking about it for 8 years and refuses to turn the page. He's the one who has the problem. I don't think so. First of all, it's only 3 years after your book came out when you dogged a guy for single-handedly losing the World Series in your estimation. But it was like, as far as like funny, dumb baseball feuds go, I get it, man. If I was Jose Mesa, I'd be livid about that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't advocate for throwing baseballs, probably at the time, 92, 93 miles an hour at other human beings.
Me neither.
That can end a career, but it's retribution in its own way.
It's
kind of funny.
It is funny.
Exactly. It is funny. It's so dumb. And it never like, I don't remember a situation in which Jose Mesa was throwing at Omar Vizquel's head or anything. Like he's plunking him in the butt and he's, doing a baseball player thing. That's pretty funny. Like as far as baseball feuds go, it's pretty funny. And to just not to be that stubbornly furious about it that you're never going to let it go and you're going to hit the guy every time you face him, it's pretty funny. Sorry to Omar Vizquel, but I find it kind of hilarious. Jose Mesa, great pick. That is a great dude.
Good long career for Jose Mesa.
Yeah, he was around forever.
Really strong seasons as a closer and like a solid guy on the bullpen, but he rarely put up those kind of numbers we were like, whoa, that guy was lights out. He was just like good but not great. Yes, he recorded 111 saves with the Phillies in 2001, 2002, 2003. And on the strength of that made him the all-time franchise saves leader.
Wow.
Which always kind of struck me. He surpassed Mitch Williams. And then he was later surpassed. Who is the current Phillies all-time saves leader?
My guess would be Brad Lidge.
No.
Kimbrel?
No.
Jonathan Papelbon?
Correct.
Oh,
ew, gross. Oh, sorry. Forgot there's a Red Sox fan on this. Wow, that is very surprising to me, though. I would not have pegged him as number one. By the way, the quote from the book titled "Omar!" My life on and off the field. This is the quote. Quote, the eyes of the world were focused on every move we made. This is about the Indians blowing Game 7 of the 1997 World Series in Miami against the then Florida Marlins. He continues to say, quote, unfortunately, Jose's own eyes were vacant, completely empty, nobody home. You could almost see right through him. Not long after I looked into his vacant eyes, he blew the save and the Marlins tied the game. That is harsh. That's harsh, man. I get it. Jose Mesa said after that, quote, even my little boy told me to get him. If I face him 10 more times, I'll hit him 10 times. I want to kill him, is what he said. That is something. I do want to point out that in the 97 World Series, Omar Vizquel batted .233 with a .603 OPS. So maybe glass houses. But anyway, great pick for this week's episode of Name That Dude. And that'll do it for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. You can get in touch with us for all of your Jose Mesa fun facts or anything else that you got. Podcast at MILB.com. For Sam Dykstra, for Benjamin Hill, my name is Tyler Maun. We'll catch you next week.